when you run a name only, you'll see a lot of different versions of social security numbers. And I run across this all the time, and even had an issue with somebody, or had got something from somebody else last week who said, so there's 3 different social security numbers or 2 different social security numbers. And the girl had a credit profile on both numbers with her name and had screwed up on both of them. And Experian and Equifax and TransUnion have an algorithm where they pull together social security numbers that are incorrect. Definitely transposed numbers. These numbers were completely different though. I think she was in California, but in any case, she actually did, have 2 different credit profiles with 2 different, same birth date, 2 different social security numbers. And I hadn't seen that in a long time, like many, many years. So I was dumbfounded, really. But you'll see all the different social security numbers, and then run that social security number only to see what you get. Just because they're not using it anymore doesn't mean it's not being used to find them. And the big databases, the big debt collector agencies have a lot of money to spend on skip tracing. And they're going to put in to Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion information they find skip tracing, or that a relative gave them. Say a relative said, yeah, I'll give you her address. It's da-da-da-da-da. Stop calling me. Or I'll give you her phone number. It's da-da-da-da-da. Don't ever call me again. She doesn't live here. They'll say, thank you. Thank you so much. And then give that new information to Experian so we can find it, and it trickles down into databases that you have. You go in and find all the different variations of, or different social security numbers, run each one to see what comes up. I think that mapping out the counties where someone lived, like in the city of Houston and then the surrounding Houston, we've got several different counties. So knowing which direction someone prefers to live. The rule is, if someone is living in a general area, they're always going to stay there if they have children in school, because they're not going to want to pull their kids out of that school district. People need familiar, and they need the village to raise their kids, someone to watch their kids. And it's, come on. And so it's real important to keep that in mind while you're skip tracing and you're pulling data, and kind of analyze and profile this person, and make sure you know if they have their kids or not. And even if they don't have their kids, and grandma and grandpa raising their kids, they're still going to be in the same general vicinity. So, but that's it. You have to map out the counties and actually write them down, because if I don't write them down, I'll forget there's more than one county to go look at. But because I think that, that generally they stay in the same vicinity anyway, I don't necessarily, and I have to force myself to make a note of a county in the file so that I go search public records in the other county, because if not, I've, cheated myself. I've done a disservice to my client and cheated myself out of a paycheck. It's time to go vote. It's 2020, an election year, and a monumental election year at that. And I understand but I voted for Obama because he promised he was not going to keep us in war, and that he was going to bring the troops home. And my oldest son was serving in Baghdad. And right before he said that, and I'm going to cry, so forgive me if I start popping tears, because it happens occasionally. Right before he said that, I heard that in a debate, that he promised that he was not going to ensue this war, keep it going. I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning for no reason at all. No good reason at all. And I grabbed my phone, and my husband was snoring asleep. And so I punched him in the ribs, and he snored some more, and thought, all right, well, I'm just going to read, because I couldn't fall back asleep. I read breaking news that an army base in Baghdad was bombed, and ISIS claimed the bomb. I wailed and cried and had a nervous breakdown for 3 days. It was so bad that my pastor didn't know what to say to me. So, so thank goodness, after 2 weeks, we had a 2 week period of silence where I didn't hear anything from my son. No posting online and no nothing. They completely made all of the soldiers go dark on social media. And then finally he posted something and I could sleep again. So, but I never wanted to go through that again. And I think that my kid had like 2 more years and 3 more years in the Army. And when he came back and was stationed at Fort Hood, I was so happy. I thought, oh my God, I don't care if he never speaks to me again for the rest of my life. He's okay. Thank you, Jesus. And it was crazy. But that year that Obama ran, all of the African Americans in the whole entire United States registered to vote. Moms, dad, everybody. And here in Texas, if you have committed a crime and a felony, that is, and you're convicted of a felony, you can regain your right to vote 5 years after the end of the anniversary of your sentence. You also can get the privilege, again, of owning a firearm. Although I don't know, I think it's just a shotgun, but you can still have a firearm. Greg says, my theory is every shit bum in South Street, St. Louis swaps residents with every shit bum in North St. Louis yearly. Yeah, well, they get evicted and they go stay on somebody else's sofa and they have to find somebody else that'll lease them a place without pulling their credit. So let's talk about bankruptcy real quick. I'm finding whenever my debtors file bankruptcy, that I actually, I go back and I pull, when they file, the list of all of the creditors in bankruptcy. The only reason why I do it is because, and it's a very good reason, most of them get dismissed. And I can go back and try to buddy up with some other company that's also looking for them. It also gives me an idea of what I'm up against also. If there's like 1,000 other debtors or other creditors, then I know those people are going to be trying to come at them also. And it's not likely that they're going to actually file a lawsuit against the debtor. It's not likely that I'm actually going to be able to get anything or get my car back very quickly, that they're hunkered down. Typically, they file bankruptcy just to get their vehicle back. And then some of them even file pro se and they do all the paperwork themselves and pay $20 to file bankruptcy. And sometimes there's other car lots around Houston. All I have to do is pick up the phone and say, I'm also a creditor in this person's bankruptcy and we're looking for a such and such vehicle. Did you at one time ever have a GPS device on your unit? And if you did, can you give me the history of your GPS? And if I find any positive information on my end, skip tracing, I'll give it to you also and do a friend-friend deal. Most of the time they do it. And then we get our vehicles back because, it's not just one vehicle. It's like 3 or 4 vehicles. That's also where you'll find federal tax liens. If you're going to vet paper or look at judgments to see if you want to buy judgments, you definitely want to look in Pacer for bankruptcies and read through the documents and look for federal liens, because if there's a federal lien that precedes anything that you get, you can collect or zap their checking account all day long. And if they have a federal lien on them, and they owe tax money, it goes to IRS first. So it's a waste of money to try. You're collecting money for the government, basically. And that's paper that you should just let go. You should never even do one more work, spend one more second on it. And also, if you don't have a pacer.gov account, go get one, because if you spend less than $15 worth of searches in a 30-day period of time, it's written off. So you don't spend any money at all. It's pretty much free. So let's see. So the state of Texas did this really cool thing. It's really, really good. And the reason why it's really good is it's primarily restricted information, because the the victim usually files in family court. And this protective order that they get is in a family court proceeding. It's not available anywhere online. So Texas just passed a regulation allowing any person who has been the subject or is restrained by a protective order, like me, Valerie Good, if I'm restrained by a protective order, I'm not allowed to go anywhere near this other person, then that protective order would be in a new database. And I don't think the database is up and running just yet. But since it was signed into law just a few months ago and it's coming, I checked it out, and there's some other states that already do it. I'm really thinking that because of this full disclosure that most states will end up leaning that way, regardless if they're a red state or a blue state, because this is for, if somebody's daughter is dating somebody who has been the subject of a protective order in the past, they and their daughter gets hurt or dies, which is why the database was created in the first place. It's a big deal, Then you'll know what happened in the past, and then at least and you would be wise or think better of getting so personally involved with that person. So that's just another new source of information for us. It tells us who that person used to be with and maybe even some dynamic of that relationship, because it's quite possible that even if the victim doesn't know in much about the perpetrator that they got the protective order against, eventually be fine. Marriage and divorce records. Since we're talking about family, I have a note in here about that. That's more locked down information, although we can see in the Harris County District Clerk website, and I'm not sure about Montgomery County where I actually live now, but we can actually see the styling of a family filing. It's not completely hidden. So marriage and divorce records. Well, marriage records are in a different place, but I'm really talking about divorce records. I even had a conversation with someone about it, and not every county allows some level of searching, but I think that you would be able to see that a divorce was filed. You wouldn't necessarily see that it was granted, maybe, but I'm about to look to see for her if someone had divorce, if they actually had their divorce granted. And so he would be in Harris County, where I was talking about earlier. So next on the list is wedding registry wish lists. So somebody actually put out a product to be one list that rules them all, and I can't remember who it was. And it doesn't necessarily mean that's the only list you should try to search for a wish list, especially now that, like, I try to find college kids all the time, and college kids will put up a wish list so that they can get freebies from their family that sends them off to college. So I'm looking more and more as a thing that I do, like especially if they're college age and there's no information for them, and I figure that they're driving the car, I'll go look on the wish list on Amazon and, all these other places that offer. Target has a college wish list too. So sometimes I can figure out that they are definitely in college, and the next step is to figure out what college. V asked, any database to search any type of insurance information like homeowners, auto, life, etc. So that's real weird. There's not actually a clearinghouse or a database for that. Well, one thing that you can do is go to like progressive.com and start doing and this is just simply to find out what other vehicles have been there, or that they have that's there, and it kind of lets me know if they're there or not recently, because if I know that someone in their house just recently bought a brand new Toyota Tundra, per se, we'll use that, and I go there and I type in start to do buy insurance or get a quote online, and it'll ask me, do I want to add the Toyota Tundra, 2019 Toyota Tundra, 2020? And I'll say yes. And that's kind of a verification for me that that address is good. That doesn't necessarily tell me what insurance company that they're using, but I think that for most purposes, for needing the insurance information, confirming an address would be one of them, because I really don't care who they have insurance with. I just need to find the vehicle or the person for one reason or another. And that's pretty much one method. Someone else mentioned earlier about finding places of employment, and I said I use Experian credit reports, and that just also made me think of something else that I learned from another guy that I used to date. I'm not going to say his name, but he told me just to go into the unemployment website for Texas, and to start putting in a claim. Now we have all the information to do that already, which is great. I think that's what makes it so easy. So you go through the process of creating a claim, and then you get a drop down that asks you which company you most recently worked for, and you're presented with 3 different businesses. And the reason why Texas has that set up is because a company that you work for might be called Jack in the Box, but it's actually owned by an LLC that has the workman's compensation or pays the unemployment. This is for unemployment, okay? That pays the unemployment, and then it will be one of those 3, and they'll be listed by their LLC name or their corporation name, and that's the name of the company or the corporation or LLC that actually has the unemployment or that pays the employment tax and what have you. I told some other people about it, and I asked them, so how'd that work out for you? And immediately it was like, yep, it worked. And one of the 3 that I had to choose from was Taco Bell, and I went there. The guy was working there, and it was a fugitive, and then he got his fugitive. So the alternative to having that data is you may need to look up to see how many different locations that particular LLC owns. Just because you find a fast food restaurant that's a franchise that's owned by a particular person, they may have many or several. And so I think that you find that out by franchise tax. There'll be a franchise tax record for each location, so that then you get a location address, and then you know exactly where to go. And that's something else that you would get from that state, like the Secretary of State probably has it. So anyway, that's it. So how'd y'all like all that? You got to have that book. Let's see. Michael Kern asked, have you found obituaries to be useful to track people down through looking for certain relatives? Oh, hell to the yes. So occasionally, Michael, you'll see a lot of people post the question if they have lowered themselves to serve papers at a wedding or a funeral all day long and repossess me. That's who does it. So I use Google Alerts, and I will tell you 3 or 4 different scenarios, but the first one that comes to mind is I knew this girl had a grandmother that was older. She actually used her grandmother as a reference on her credit application. So I had entered in the grandmother's unique name, mind you, in Google Alerts. Popped up in my email giving me a date and time for a funeral. And I thought, damn, I bet her granddaughter's going to show up there, because really, if you don't see somebody else, I mean, if you don't see your relatives for 1,000 years, you're going to see them at grandma's funeral. And if you don't go, you're an outcast for sure. So that's what happened. She showed up at her grandmother's funeral, and my repo guy was in a bright red truck, and he just real slowly pulled up to the repo. All her kinfolk were outside smoking a cigarette, and they waved at the repo man. They didn't even know it was her car. They never see her. She's had this car out for repo for 4 years. 4 years. They didn't even know that was her car because they never see her. They waved at the repo man and was like, hi. He waved back and said, have a good day. And off with the repo he went. And then another situation where Google Alerts worked real well for me was, and also to finish that, I use findagrave.com to, and all legacy and all that, but they all come up with Google Alerts. That's the reason why I mentioned Google Alerts. So I had a motorcycle that was out for repo. Motorcycles are real hard for me to get. I can run them into pay, but they don't have to, because they don't even buy tags for their motorcycles out here. I don't know if they get pulled over ever, but occasionally I guess they get caught. But in any case, yeah, they sure did. This motorcycle Google Alert, caught this and put it in my Gmail, send me a link to the Houston Chronicle article about it. This guy had only been dead for like 3 hours. I knew he was dead before his mother knew. The guy's name was Darren Auzenne, and you can look it up. Darren Auzenne in Google, in the Houston Chronicle. He was, this is insane. He was speeding. He was racing a Corvette that he also owned, that his cousin was driving down I-45 North in Houston, in the Greens Point area, for you Houstonians that are in here, and rear-ended a repo truck and died instantly. His motorcycle slid up underneath the truck, and I don't know how physically he was affected, but I can only imagine. They had raw video footage of the accident scene, and I'm watching it at 3 o'clock in the morning going, Jesus, oh my God, that's my repo. Oh my God, it's totaled. And I bet he had no insurance. I'm sorry. I didn't know if I should laugh or cry, but I was screaming at here, and my neighbor's like, are you okay? Valerie, I can hear you through the floor. Shut the fuck up. I really did. I had an emotional fit. But that's exactly how good Google Alerts is, and that you should be using it for your debtors or your skips or subjects, whatever you call them, with unique names for sure. You've got to, because 3 hours. It was probably wasn't even 3 hours. It probably was less than that. I'm saying 3 hours because I'm pretty sure I was on the phone with the owner of the company saying, I'm real sorry to wake you up right now, but he was awake. And but I think Darren Auzenne just died, and that your motorcycle's totaled. So pretty much that was it, and that's that. And I found out that the Corvette he was racing was also out for repo. So Darren Auzenne rear-ended or went up underneath a repo truck in a motorcycle that was out for repo. That's not poetic justice by any means. No one deserves to die, but it happened just like that way. Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed the book, Jada. I appreciate it. If you ever have any questions or something doesn't make sense, or like, I'm real bad about not explaining things enough, although I'm changing my ways, I will definitely be here for you. Okay, just send me a message or post a question in this group, and then I'll be in here and I'll see it and I'll answer. Okay, and thank you for the compliment. So Well, it's been a pleasure having all you guys here, and probably next month I will do another one. I actually have a lot of things I want to talk about, and I didn't grab my notebook, so I don't know where it is, but I know where this book is. This book, I know you see it backwards probably, but this book is for sale on Amazon. And it is the one that, it's the workbook for the 2018 seminar. Now I'm writing a new book. It's called Skip Trace Wiki. And then, and thank you. And thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it so much. You know, I think it's good that more people are out there talking about skip tracing, because as resources dry up and come available, you know, we need to know about it. I understand that we need professional databases, but not everybody does things, or not every skip does something that puts their information into a professional database. And then, you know, I'm not all about spending a bunch of money on data. You know, I may spend $500 in a month on data and not find anybody, and then use all these free resources and other things and find everybody and think, what the hell do I need my databases for? Well, I mean, I need them, but you know, that's my point. You got to know about everything, and you have to employ everything, and you have to do everything. It's essential that you have more than one place to go. And I always tell people, just because I teach you how to do pretexting doesn't mean that you're allowed to do it. There's that. It's all up to the DA who would be actually prosecuting you for committing the crime. You keep that in mind. If you have a shitty DA, then don't do it. And on that note, I'm going to say good night and goodbye. And it's been a pleasure being here with you and talking to you. And I will be here if you need anything. Give me a holler. And have a good evening. Bye.